Hello and welcome back, dear friends, at Lit ECT YouTube channel, the one-stop destination for English literature. Dear friends, these videos are made keeping in mind a specific need of NTA NET syllabus for English literature. And in today's video, we are going to discuss some key terms, some important terms related with ELT, or what is known as English language teaching. Dear friends, there are so many terms, and these terms are evolving by each passing decade, years, because English has virtually become the most important global medium of communication. So there are so many terms. We will try to understand these terms in this present video. Before that, let's have some idea about the background. There is a particular term which is known as second language acquisition, or SLA, and obviously second language doesn't always mean English. There can be different second languages. In fact, what is second language acquisition? It refers to the process of learning a supplement language, which means basically every learner, every human being has one native language which he or she acquires right from the birth. As the person grows up, the surrounding environment teaches this particular native language. But when we learn a supplement language for various purposes, then it is known as second language acquisition. So second language acquisition refers to a person learning a language who has already learned a native language, or maybe multiple native languages. Now, the native language is signaled in this concept as L1, or language 1, or primary language, while the second language is signaled as L2. The process of learning L1 and learning L2, obviously they are quite different. L1 begins at very early age, when one is we can say very early, 6 months, 1 year, and the child picks up the sounds and words from his or her family and surroundings, and the pronunciation comes first. Use of the words come first, and grammar learning comes later. It is a very natural process which everyone goes through. While the second language is typically a dominant official language which has an important role in the particular society, which has some advantages, and that is why it is needed for education, employment, or upgrade movement in a society. In this case, one learns it intentionally quite later in one's life, during the student years, whether it is higher school education or in collegiate years. Generally, learning grammar first, how to use this language, and its practical uses gradually. With respect to India, English is the language which comes in this category. We all know that English plays a pivotal role, especially in past 30-40 years, in creating job opportunities, in creating higher education opportunities. There are so many fields in which English has become inevitable to go through. So learning English is always in India is a learning of second language. So basically it can be in other country, it can be French, it can be some other language. Now, the distinction between second language and foreign language is regarding the function of the language in the socio-cultural setting. We must bear in mind that second language is not always learning a foreign language. Second language has, as I have already mentioned, an important social function. It may not be the native language NL of the dominant population, for example, English in India and Singapore, but still it plays most important role, and all students looking for academic advancement, looking for job opportunities, they consider it of utmost importance to learn this language. Foreign language is not widely used communication medium. It has limited role. It is used only in a specific sense, speaking to foreigners, reading, writing material, translation work, and it is learned sometimes as a hobby and sometimes as a subject in school. For example, in recent years, third language in most of the schools includes languages like French and German in various schools and universities. They don't have such a dominant role as English. Still, students sometimes out of hobby, sometimes looking for job in this particular area, learns this. So if we consider India in this context, English is second language, while French or German, they must be considered foreign languages. Another important distinction we have to understand is distinction between acquisition and learning. SLA researchers make distinction between these two processes. Acquisition refers to learning of a non-native language in a naturalistic environment. It means that a student is learning in that environment in which that language is the most important one, most commonly used. For example, an Indian student residing in France learning French. So for this Indian student, French is obviously a non-native language, but the atmosphere in France is such that French is spoken quite commonly. So even he or she picks up many words and expression and usage from the surrounding environment. For example, while he or she goes to a restaurant or to some public places, there are so many expressions which without learning in a proper formal manner, it can be learned. This process is known as acquisition. Learning, in contrast, refers to the learning of a non-native language in an environment in which that language is not natively spoken. For example, the same student, when he she comes back to India and learns French in a school, but it is only in that particular class that French is spoken or taught. Otherwise, outside in we can say public sphere, there is no use of French. So that is called learning. So this is distinction which again we can say that acquisition and learning is almost like foreign language and second language. Now, here is a brief information for you all. You can all avail free PDFs by just messaging me on this WhatsApp number and you can get them. Okay, we come to the main point, important terms related with second language learning. First is English as a second language. The short form is ESL. Now, English as a second language is learning English in a country where English is dominantly spoken or the official language. Obviously, you know that India comes into this category. Here, second language status is given to English language. A simple example would be an Indian going to the US for study, learning English there for communicating and understanding. Okay, it might sound a bit, outdated now because most of Indians going abroad or going particularly to US have this knowledge, competency in English language. But still think about an Indian student born and brought up, studied at some rural environment, still not being able to speak English fluently when he or she goes to the US and then there for working and for studying, the knowledge of English language becomes compulsory. At that time, English become second language. So here is a funny cartoon which explains that it is ESL is English as a second language. The next term is English as a foreign language. So English, this term is used for the learners who learn English language in a country where English is not a dominant or commonly spoken language, which was case for India almost 60 or 17. We have a curious history regarding this language because for 200 years Britishers colonized us, ruled over us administratively. So English has been a part of our daily we can say observation. But in many other areas which were separated from this colonial rule, English was still a foreign language. Even in other Asian countries which have been, you can say, not under the colonial expansion. For example, a Chinese student learning English, living and working in China will be considered as a student of EFL. So foreign language English will be considered a foreign language in which it is not found, observed, practiced commonly. English to speakers of other languages, ESOL. Now this is a relatively new term and it is a broad term which includes both categories. EFL for those students which learn this language in an environment where English is not spoken so commonly, and those students who are learning English as a second language. So ESOL or ESOL includes both ESL and EFL. Now we come to very special category, ESP, English for special purposes. Now we know that learning English is something different and learning for a particular purpose is something different. This term is used for the learners who learn English with a specific goal in mind. ESP could be for academic purpose, then English will be different. Learning English language will be a different experience, occupational or scientific purposes. Now, the content of ESP curriculum is designed to meet the specific needs of the learners in that course. For example, a student learning English for particular medicinal purpose will have that type of vocab. For business, a different type of commercial vocab. Cooking, a different type. Academic, it will have more emphasis on grammatical and writing skills. So ESP is designed keeping in mind the particular need of that learner, for which purpose, for that special purpose, the curriculum will be designed. English as an additional language, EAL. Once again, a relatively contemporary term used in place of ESL, English as secondary language, and for a learner who is competent speaker of at least one native language, and that learner is trying to learn this language as an additional language. In the US, the term English Language Learner, ELL, is used in place of EAL. So basically, people of different ethnicity, or we can say Middle East or African countries living in UK or in the UK or the US, when they learn for we can say their help and support for their progress, they are basically learners of English as an additional language, because they know one native language in which they are far more competent. English for academic purposes, EAP, you can understand that it is a subset of ESL, English for ESP, English for specific purposes. Now, it refers to language skills which people need for study or work in English medium higher education. So, here special purpose is restricted to academic only. EAP provides training in skills which is needed for academic study like listening comprehension, fluency development, reading, grammar, writing, and vocabulary. EAP itself can be subdivided according to whether it is content is general, EGAP, English for general academic purposes. Now in this there is no, we can say, specific higher education related area. It is just a general competency of English so that one can move into the domain of English language. The second one is specific, ESAP, English for specific academic purpose. So on the top we have ESP, then in ESP we have EAP, then in EAP we have EGAP and ESAP. Now, English for academic purposes, if the learner wants to study a range of disciplines, then course is more general. It is not specific. You can see here that how this is working. As you can see here, it is EFL. EFL can be divided into general English and English for specific purposes. Now, English for specific purpose once again have this subset of EAP, which is further divided into EGAP and ESAP. Now, if learner wants to study a range of disciplines, then he must go through course of EGAP. For example, if there is one particular stream, one particular discipline, then he must or she must undertake a ESAP course, so that which is basically tailor-made, which is designed according to their needs. Next, we have English for occupational purposes, EOP. It is a branch of ESP which aims to train a learner in English language skills. So now ESP has two broad branches, EAP for academic purposes and EOP for occupational purposes that are required for work related situation. EOP courses are designed keeping in mind the specific terminology of a particular occupation. You can look at the title of courses and understand English for banking and finance, legal English, English for military purposes, English for the oil industry. So these are various, name of courses, and you can understand what they teach. EOP is further divided into EVP, English for vocational purposes, and EPP, English for professional purposes. All these are basically, we can say, structured according to the specific need. As I already told you, that demand for learning English is gaining such a momentum that new courses according to particular needs are designed, and that is why so many terms are used. Okay friends, this was all in our today's video. We will sure come soon with another video on SLA, second language acquisition, covering some other aspect of this particular concept. I hope it will help you in understanding ELT or related material. Keep watching, keep supporting. Thank you, dear friends.